India's fintech market is expected to be almost 1.3 trillion by 2025.
Being in fintech is the right time, right place. This is the perfect journey to take people. Cash is what make people talk.
I wanted to participate more at a deeper level where even women are empowered by managing their money on their own, where they're not asking somebody, can you help me connect to the next door broker who can, you don't need to answer where you are investing and how you're investing.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome again to the session on innovation in fintech and the role of women. I have today an eminent panel of women leaders who have not only helped grow the fintech market, but have also been part of nurturing the consumer base, bringing in the equity, bringing in the importance to every segment of the fintech industry and the fintech consumers, whether they have been women, they have been people with special needs, people from various strata and segments of the economic strength, as well as people who have been underserved in terms of their businesses. And what we see today, the kind of growth in fintech, in financial services rather, I would say, powered by fintech, has made what we are today. And if I just look at India's fintech market is expected to be almost 1.3 trillion by 2025, which is growing almost at a CAGR of 31% in the year 2021 to 2025. And here what we see, the lending tech accounts for almost 47%, the insurance tech for 26%, and the digital payments at 16%. And with this large pie that we see of growth here can also be attributed to the amount of startups that are coming up in India, especially in the fintech area. Just this year, we saw about $8 million infusion in the startup sector, which is almost 280 funding deals, with an average ticket size of almost $33 million. And of course, what I see is the largest pie of the startup has gone either to the lending tech or the digital payments. And almost 68% of the total funding has gone to lending and digital, and 44% of the deal count is where we see gone to both of these opportunities, right? So now with such a large market that we are seeing, coming up, I would like to start, questions on each one of them in terms of, with such a large pie, maybe if you could start, how has the journey been so far in supporting the economic vitality in general, and specifically for the groups that we're talking about, the diverse groups like women, like people with special needs, with people at different stratas of the economic strength? What are your views, and how do you think the journey has been for them?
Okay. Thank you, Neetika. I work for Evolute FinTech Innovations, which the purpose of our company is tech powering the world. So we focus on the underserved, we focus on diverse sections of the society, we focus on markets where we have a large number of people with lesser access to fintech, and we try to bring them up, empower them with technology. That's what we focus on as a company itself. So our solutions, our products give better access to the underserved, both in terms of money and in terms of services. So when I mean services, it's more to do with banking. We associate ourselves with banking, and we bring solutions which can be a virtual ATM. So there is a person from a house who carries a device home to home, where the villagers can go either withdraw money or they can deposit the money or look at their statements without finding miles of distance to find an ATM. Or they can also start working on being a banking correspondent themselves. So we try to bring in a fact of one person for family getting employed by being a banking correspondent and by using our solutions. So I think as an inherent DNA, our company is focused on empowering the underserved and bringing in diversity and inclusion into this entire stuff. For me personally, this journey has been, I don't know, many years, 25 plus years now. What started off as joining a company that was well known and that was into payments, to that becoming my passion and my oxygen. I think it's just been payments and non-payments and diversity and inclusion and all of this, which has become a part of me. Yeah.
I think it must be really exciting to look at people actually being, impacting their actual lives. The entire journey of being able to rise up the ladder on the economic strata by being able to put in the effort through FinTech. So, what has been the difference that you've seen in the way finances were managed earlier and with the impetus of FinTech, and specifically in the last 2 years because of COVID?
Okay. The easier one is because of COVID.
Okay.
I think the reach, the distances that COVID caused. In fact, I will give an example of one of our solutions, which is a digital financial inclusion solution that we got into. It was there earlier to COVID, but COVID gave us a view of how things can be handled, especially looking at the numerous number of migrant workers who were there in different cities across India. And they were the sole breadwinners. So there was no way they could travel to their hometowns and give cash to their families. So how did this impact the entire scheme of things for us? We were able to bring in smaller merchants to do a little bit more on what they were doing by giving them a solution. And the migrant workers who did not have access to cash to go to, or access to digital systems, to go to the merchant, give the cash that they had and transfer from the merchant's phone to their families. Of course, a lot of things helped, digital enablement helped, the compliances helped, the policies helped, but I'll tell you, the thing that it brought to us as a company is the usage of our products and the smile that brought up to people. Okay, now I'm sending something to my family so that they don't stay away from food. The relief that we saw on people's faces, I think that was the satisfaction levels for us. And we also felt we did a little bit of a pie in this entire COVID scheme of things, right? That was an easier one from COVID. But overall, the need that is there in terms of having people to access the banking systems, having people access to cash, that is driving us towards more digitizing the entire FinTech scheme of things. So now, I feel in India especially, starting with demonetization to the numerous policies that have come up to make life better for the underserved and to women in particular, especially in some of the states that we have seen. I feel it's a good thing to be, good time to be in, and we can help these people give access to their needs and making their lives better.
No, I think I really like the fact that you said, this smile that it brought to people's, and the relief that you could see when the money transaction could be done so easily, because we may build technology, we may build a lot of things, but till we do not understand what impact it makes in the life of a person, technology does not have any meaning. So we invest in it, we build things, but till it does not really impact the last person, it probably is, something we can be proud of. We can love to have, but not really be proud of till we have such kind of use cases. So I think kudos to all of you for making that happen. With that, I'd like to come to you, Radhika, on the same thing. How, in your scenario, how has the journey been so far in supporting the economic vitality?
Just take 2 minutes to talk about what we do in
Sure.
Paisabazaar. I'll talk about the current role and then go back and talk about my experience and how we've been able to contribute. So Paisabazaar is India's #1 credit marketplace. So credit, like there are various parts to financial services, right? One is insurance, other is payments, and then there is credit. So in any of the other things apart from credit, it's a buyer's market. So if you have the money, there are means and ways where you can transfer it through payment services. Similarly, insurance, if you have the money, and of course there is some amount of eligibility, your health has to support you, you could go out and take whatever insurance that you need. But lending is completely a seller's market. So the bank decides whether you are the right person who the bank can lend to. So in that sense, it's completely not as inclusive. The approval rates are as low as 6 to 7%. If there are 100 applications to a bank, the bank has the ability, bank and financial institutions here have the ability to pick and choose whom they want to lend to. So in that sense, being part of lending ecosystem itself is driving a large amount of inclusion in that sense, because it's very, very low in terms of people being able to avail loans. And the second interesting thing about lending is that you need to have a prior lending record to get a new loan. So in that sense, it's sort of a chicken and egg. So there are a lot of initiatives which are going into place for new to credit customers. So if you're a 25-year-old, no credit history, how do you get yourself a first loan? Similarly, if you're a 35-year-old, taken a credit, but you had a problem with your credit earlier, but you've sort of mended your ways, how do you access to credit? So there's a lot of inclusion work that we try to do with banks, co-create products so that we are able to give credit to as many people as possible in out of 100 applications that we get on our platform. Very interestingly, we get around applications from 1100 cities across the country. In fact, many of the city names, I just eyeballed it, and it's like first time I was like, oh my god, there's a city like that in this country. And fortunately, we've currently been able to disburse to 623 cities, which has gone up from 500 odd in the last 2 years. So in that sense, we are slowly but surely figuring out a way of being able to provide credit to a large section of the country. Just talk about my experience in financial services. So I have around 20 years of work experience, and first 2 years I was with Hindustan Lever, which sort of helped me ground and figure out what actually happens in the market. The remaining 18 years I've been in financial services. I would say I very lucky to have huge round of experience. The first 8 years I spent in Citibank, which was the banking for the rich and the super rich kind of environment, all in consumer banking. So the rich and the super rich. And then I spent 3 years with Michael and Susan Dell Foundation, which worked with self-help groups, particularly women. There, very refreshingly, 95% of the consumer base was women, which is very much ulta here at Paisabazaar, which is 90% is men, 92% is men. So in self-help groups, where we provided capital to companies like microfinance companies like Ujjivan, Jana Lakshmi, which sort of gave credit to self-help group women, and then they paid it back. So it was very nice to go to each of the houses. There used to be a meeting of 10 women who used to diligently come back, plan their money out. Every week they used to come back and make the repayment, plan their next, say, purchase of sewing machine so that they can advance their business, home business that they were doing. And currently the mass market, which is Paisabazaar, where most of India, everybody who has access to internet can definitely come onto our platform. So I think very lucky to have a huge round of well-rounded experience. And what I could see now in the last 2 years, I'm just going to the next part of your question, in terms of COVID, how it has impacted. So our business came to a grinding halt in March 2020, exactly 2 years back. It came to a grinding halt because while we were generating inquiries digitally, but many of the processes behind that to go and get yourself a loan was completely physical. There was a lot of physical intervention to the processes that is there in a lending process. So while they were always option to do a digital KYC, but the banks could not move fast because they assumed that anyways we are going to meet the customer, we will do all of it together in a physical manner. But once the COVID impact happened and people could not travel out, so many of the processes which were already blooming at different parts sort of started coming together, and we moved to around 20% of our loans being completely digital with no physical intervention. While it's still a far cry, but I think it's a great start, and I'm hopeful that it will be much accelerated from here on.
No, I think very, very two critical, pertinent points that you made, and I'm really happy to capture and reiterate them. One is, it's not just the gender equality which FinTech brought in, but it was a demographic equity that it actually brought in. Yeah. Being able to reach, if you've been able to reach out to 600 and so many cities. I mean, banking was there in the beginning, but the impact and being able to do that at much faster pace is something which definitely through FinTech has been the important part. And the second one, of course, is the eKYC, the entire process which used to take so long, not just in terms of the onboarding cost, but also the onboarding time of a customer. And that is where I think you've been able to bring in multiple different stratas of people, whether they are students, whether they are, artists, doing some handcraft work, or maybe even businesses who are just starting up. So I think that's a great initiative that FinTech has brought in. So I'll come to you now, and then we'll come back for the second round of questions on what you see is your customer base in currently and in the near future. But before that, a question to you again: that what in your case has been the journey in supporting the economic vitality, and how has it been different from the financial services and the background that you had come from? So we can start with your introduction.
Yeah, I'll do that. Thank you so much. I think this is one area which is very close to my heart. I started my journey as a wealth advisor to ultra HNIs. I was advising them where to invest their money. That was good 10 to 12 years of my career where I spent in. But increasingly, there was an urge to have a bigger impact. For instance, I had met lots of cases where there was, people with a lot of money, still women were very empowered. So a lady would say, I don't want my husband to know what I really have in the portfolio. And husband would say vice versa. And a daughter would insist me that I should have a discussion with her father that how are you planning your trust and estate planning? How are the allocation of the money is going to happen in the future? However, when my cousins, and we are from, broadly middle class families, so when they reached out to me to guide them on investments, so I would give the advice, buy this mutual fund or that. I'm talking about 2012 to 14, and they would say, okay, how do I go about it? And I would say, okay, there you have to fill up the form and go and submit it. Well, I can't help you because our resources are utilized only for our clients, and I can help one or two people. I can't help, at masses. There I figured that people who have access to money, and it's a multiplier effect, investing at the right time, at the right place, is not accessible to people who genuinely need it to build their retirement corpus, to build security for themselves. So this FinTech, where accessibility of such services was only to masses, 1% of India, actually went deep, into the hinterlands and reached to masses, where execution completely brought the structural shift in the markets. In fact, if you see now the retail participation of money getting invested in mutual funds, even in SIPs, has really changed how our markets behave. Earlier, our markets were very dependent on FIs putting in money and pulling out, and we'll have markets very, very shaky and volatile. But right now, retail participation has completely changed our dependency on FI markets. So that accessibility gave me, more. I wanted to participate more at a deeper level, where even women are empowered by managing their money on their own, where they're not asking somebody, can you help me connect to the next door broker who can, you don't need to answer where you are investing and how you're investing. So apps like MobiKwik or many others have changed that dynamics a lot.
Right.
So anyone, and truly I personally feel women empowerment is when they take control of their money. And in fact, I see this even in the payments. My help would ask me that now, while I insisted in opening a bank account a couple of years back, now she tells me, don't give me cash. Somebody will take it from me. Put it in my bank account. And then they will ask me and I would have multiple ways to get rid of it. So, women earn, but that money never stays with them when they take it in cash. But when it's in the bank, it's safe. It stays for their safety and whatever, like for their long-term use. So this is, I think, where I intended to work, and I happened to wanted to work with a more women-centric, where there's more inclusion and diversity. And MobiKwik is one of the companies where the founder is also a woman. And so this was a perfect place to start this journey of bringing more inclusion in my small, manner. So
No, it's very, very heartening to hear that this is a social issue which had to be taken on head on, and it has had a social impact, right? So the fact that you just mentioned that women were earning from probably a lot many years in various roles, but the control of the money, because of it being either in the manner of cash, was not what they had. And this is now that at least they have the power of knowing how to spend it, where to spend it, and look at the welfare of the family as they go about.
So there was a shift from ultra H&M market to complete masses.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I think that really has changed the entire. Not only it has changed the ecosystem has changed the entire thing, but the ecosystem is now getting built on all of these issues and things that we see coming up on the cultural side. So, but then again, coming to this, as a woman in the fintech world, did you see any kind of barriers? So one is the social issue which was addressed, but any kind of barriers that you saw for women rising into the fintech world?
So before I answer the question, I would say, I think whoever feels there is a barrier, they put it amongst themselves. They put it upon themselves. So that is where there is a shift that needs to happen. Personally, if you ask me, I think I had no such barriers. So sitting in this panel today is an explanation of how the journey has been for me, from being a developer in the payments world to being a person who heads the software group for both payments and non-payments and other solutions that we want to work on. So throw the barriers away. That's what I would say. If you find something, throw it or go around it and find your path. But for that to happen, it's not so easy. See, we being urbanites, maybe it's much more easier, and you have the support of family and friends and your environment in general. But to make this statement true for everybody, we need to have the support from the ecosystem. So it starts from family. It starts from your immediate family, who can understand that anybody who is a little different, I wouldn't say woman, man, anybody who's a little different, you need to have a little more support. So make use of that support. Starts from family, extends a little bit more into your surrounding areas, the complete social ecosystem, and the policies that organizations can bring in, the government can bring in. Ensure that you don't put in barriers in front of them. Okay, when you want to hire, ensure that you focus completely on the merit of the person rather than the place where they come from, the language they speak, or they come from a different background. Not needed.
Correct.
Right? So that's how you remove the barriers from being inside the organization or inside the government. And as a person, watch for your barriers. If you feel there is a barrier that is coming in front of you, work towards it. And see to it that you move further. So many times they say you can't change the environment, right? But you can change yourself. That's within you. So ensure that you identify that, you are aware of that, and then move forward. I think that's how you get away from barriers, either being as a woman or being a different person, and even being as a man, I would say.
Correct.
Yeah?
Correct. So I think break the biases actually.
Yeah, break the bias. That would be the state when you are truly empowering people.
Yes.
One from yourself and one from the ecosystem. And the second, you have to be self-aware. The self-awareness is the most important thing for everybody. So don't make a statement like, I didn't know this. Okay, ensure you know it, right? If you get to know, you'll find an answer.
Correct.
So I think that's an easier path.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's really important. Not just that you stand up to the barriers and find a path for it, but also break the biases in terms of. And here we're not talking just women. We're also talking men. Why have some specific standard expectations? Bring in the equity at all levels, and I think that will make a difference. So. Would you like to talk of any other barriers or the opportunities which the time has brought in, which essentially has made FinTech, one of the progressive trends today?
Yeah, just one comment on the fact that are there any barriers for women in FinTech. I think there's nothing specific to FinTech. It's the similar across all sectors in that matter. And I think financial services, initially at least when I was growing up, when I was in college, there were a lot of women CEO bankers. So I think that sort of stuck to my head in that sense, saying that there were many of them at that point of time. There were 3 or 4 of them. And that sort of influenced me, sort of saying that I think this is a great field to be there. Coming back to FinTech in specific, I think it's a great opportunity because women by nature are good at budgeting, but not necessarily taking it beyond and taking control. So there was one survey which was done by our group company, sister company, which is Policy Bazaar, on who takes term insurance. So in that, it sort of came out that men are the one who took term insurance, and a working woman, if she is married, does not prioritize term insurance. The only set of women who sort of prioritize term insurance are, widow women or single women. In that sense, single mothers. So I think that's when one needs to take ourselves more seriously to sort of take charge and move on, rather than only expecting to be managed. So I think I agree with what Asha was talking about, saying that I think it starts with oneself. So if we believe that we are able to take on the next responsibility rather than only managing the household on a budget. So I think being an equal partner in whether it's buying a house, buying an insurance, planning for your child's education, even marriage for that matter, all of it together, I think it should be a more joint decision. So I think empowerment begins at home. So I think that's one thing. Secondly, just zooming out for opportunity, I think it's a great ability because there's a lot of real life problems. So people are trying to solve problems for the marginalized or solve problems for the underserved. So being part of the underserved community, or at least so-called underserved community, you understand that better. There is a lot of empathetic decision making that you can do. And I think great problem solving, putting everybody together and solving for the problem, using technology, I think are great opportunities for careers for people for women to be part of. I think I'm excited trying to recruit more people into the FinTech world, more women in the FinTech world, which I think personally I've failed at my company, but I'm trying to change that narrative now.
Okay, that's really heartening to hear. And what I also picked a very nice word, what you said, having the voice. One, having the voice. Second, being heard, and then having the voice, being heard, and then being able to get people also to voice out, because unless something comes to the fore, there is not a way to find a solution. I think this is something that she also mentioned, know the barriers so that you can stand up to them and, overcome them. Any such examples that you also faced?
See, on similar lines, yes, there are barriers a women face across everywhere. From taking admission to an MBA college, I was asked, when are you planning to get married? So, wow, okay. Is that I did not give CAT? Is that you checked on my skills? So this is a similar thing. Even organizations, they don't talk about it, but there is something like, this woman is recently married, she's gonna have a baby soon, so she'll go on a maternity leave, right? So I think there are barriers, we need to address them, we need to agree on them, and you have to push through these things. Like, you question, is this a pertinent question to ask at this platform? Even while taking admission in an MBA college, is this affecting you in any ways? Even if I'm getting married, am I less deserving for this seat? So I think giving this space that, I think women are brilliant in managing multiple things together.
Yes.
They are more honest. It's a very generic statement that they're more honest, but yeah, I mean, somebody who's committed with that mindset would do 100% to their work, manage the family, and won't crib about it. While there are, these are personalities, how much you want to give to your work, how serious about. So there are both things you find in both the genders, right? But it's just a perception that women takes a larger role in managing the house, so she would be dedicating more time over there, while that's not true. Somebody who's at this position, I have a young daughter, I manage everything, but I give 8 hours to 10 hours in office. And you can manage all of this together. So you have to push through. There are barriers everywhere. So I started my own company. So people would be very interested in the idea and everything, but when it's coming to writing a check to a women founder, it doesn't happen. There are barriers. So if you even look at the US data, only 2.6% of $330 billion funding that happened in the VC world were the women founders. 2.6%. Meager. So they talk big things. There are new funds which get launched, women-focused funds. They are grants. They are not fundings. So this is a big, big barrier which all of us have to work together and break it. And it will take its own time. It won't go easily.
No, I think with more women leaders coming up, probably this is going to be the path forward.
Yes.
And we as women need to ensure it's not, and I'm not just talking women, I'm talking like what she mentioned. There are different kinds of groups who need support in different mechanisms. And hence, as humans, we need to be sensitive to everyone's needs and work towards how we can keep each of them more inclusive. And I think what she also mentioned in terms of the insurance survey, that really resonates with what you said.
Absolutely.
That women on them are themselves responsible to think about themselves, think about what would happen in case, how can they invest it in these kind of funds, which not only support them in case of emergency, but their families as well. So that is a very interesting thing. But now moving forward, we've been talking about what has been the past and how we see the women leaders today and women groups today. But what about the future? So today, I think in the audience, I have people who are millennials, I have Gen X, and I have the Gen Z. What do you think, and how is FinTech going to change with the movement from Gen X to millennials and then to Gen Z? Do you think that is going to make a difference in how we approach financial services and FinTech?
So, I'll request you to...
There's been penetration of, handsets, there's been penetration of connectivity. Do you think the younger generation is more apt at, using...
See, I think younger generation is more fearless.
Correct.
So
Correct.
I think we have evolved as a generation after generation. Even my parents used to say we never questioned our parents. Now we question our parents. I think the new generation would not even question, they'll just inform.
Okay, that's interesting.
So interestingly, the new generation we've been meeting, and I asked them, do you invest? If I ask Gen Z, do you invest? They would say, 5 of them would say we invest in crypto. Which I think Gen X would not be investing in. So they're far more risk taker. And I think it's also related to how economy has evolved. First, we were, roti kapda makan. Our parents were trying to fulfill that for ourselves. We built a certain level where we are comfortable, we can achieve everything. And the next generation is looking for more psychological needs, the next level, which is what next? I would not work. So younger generation would not work if they're not happy. There would be so many people leaving cultural issues. I don't think in my generation or in millennials we did that much as like culture fit nahi hai, so I'm just leaving. So I think the new generation is very, very demanding. They know what they want and they're more risk taker. They have better risk-taking capabilities than what we had. And it's a factor of economic growth as well. So now we are $2,000 per capita income economy, right? So our basic needs are taken care of. It's all about now spend on yourself, experience new things. So that's a big change I have seen.
Would you feel that for the entire, this is one, I think this is more focused on the urban part of the country. So would you think that is the status all across the country?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we had analyzed around 20 million customers data which we had. So in that, what we found, which was very interesting, was people born in the 70s, the average age when they took their first loan was around 32 years. And the same thing, people born in the 70s and 80s, the average age when they took their first loan was 26. And the loan was also different. There, the first loan would have been typically a home loan, is when the people took their home loan. Whereas currently, it's a consumer durable loan, for all you know, or it could be a personal loan. So it could be for a travel you planned. It could be for a vacation. So in that sense, there's a definite tectonic shift which is happening, and aided by technology, where availability of smartphones, availability of mobile data, and also ability, and also there is innovation which is happening, where there are FinTechs which are innovating to be able to underwrite to these set of customers. You know that in the future they will be able to pay back. So I think all of it together, me being an optimist, I think there is a lot of potential unlocking which would happen. And the best part is, obviously, with some data coming in, we don't want a credit bubble to happen, because you want people to be responsible and you don't want it to be like a crisis which comes in. But I think it's poised for a great change from here on.
what do you think in terms of the three generations that probably you have seen over your career? Women investing just for their homes, women investing for the future, women investing for some of their own needs as well, especially in the three criterias or three segments of Gen X, Millennials, and the Gen Z.
Okay. Again, I'll go back to my journey, which started off. So for many years, right from being in the technology to being in pre-sales, heading the pre-sales group, I was the only woman, okay, amongst 30, 35 males. So you go for lunch, it's very
Sounds
difficult
like a familiar story.
Yeah, it's difficult to talk, But when I started hiring, when I became a manager, when I started hiring for my teams, I didn't say the criteria was women, but I don't know, coincidence, when they saw a woman manager, it was more appealing for them to join that group. So at one point in time, I think my team was, out of 26 people, it was 18 women. Wow. At one point in time. So the shift entirely happened without my knowledge, without me doing anything specially for it. But what I really observed was there was a connect that actually happened. But now I'll shift towards the scope of Gen X versus Millennials versus Gen Z, right? I think, as Aayara said, nowadays they are fearless. Why are they fearless? They are opinionated. They are so aware of what is happening. They can take chances because, as parents, we are not telling them to stop doing anything unless and until it is bad, isn't it? I'm seeing a young person sitting here and, so I think as parents, we are also not stopping them. Neither are they stopping from viewing things themselves. Correct? And that's why they are so fearless. They are very clear about what they want most of the times. And, we were just having a discussion just before this meeting. And we said, okay, now what is the difference we observe when we hire or when we interview females? Earlier, there was no money discussion that was happening. Now there is an aggression. Okay, there is an aggression stating, I need this much of money. We as hiring managers, we can't ask a question, why do you want, right? We are nobody to ask that question, but we see that difference. The other, I am one of them who took loan only for home. I've never taken any other loan in life. And once I crossed 40, I said, no more loans. I'm not taking any risks. Okay. That's me, right? Born in the 70s. But now I have a person who wants to move from a PG suddenly to a 3-bedroom house because he got a 3 times hike in salary, took a personal loan to pay the advance amount. I was like, are you serious? Are you taking a personal loan for advance amount? Yeah, because why should I spend my own money? Bank is giving me, or some financial institution is giving me, let me take it and use it. I will see if I don't have the capability to return it. But the bank is not asking me this question, so let me take it. Similarly, this kind of a change in behavior has happened with the entire ecosystem also. So many years ago, when my father built his home, he didn't get loan. Okay, it was those days crowdfunding. Okay, correct. So he had to get the money from his relatives and friends and build the home. But today, just look at it. Who asks you for so many questions to give you a simple 10 lakh, 15 lakh loan? Nobody asks you so much. So there's a shift that has happened. I think this entire change in the thought process, entire change in the openness that has brought in, that has also influenced the younger generation a lot. Okay, one with the parents themselves being more capable of money. They've saved enough for the next generation to take things forward. Second, there is an openness in the entire environment. And I have also seen personally that it's more urban class who are much more smarter, because recently a person joined me from North Karnataka. Her parents came to drop her to office. Okay, so this complete shift has definitely not happened, but there's a good positive shift that has happened. And personally, for me, heading technology teams, I have a lot of young people, much younger than my son, are also in my team. Okay, so I can say I'm learning a lot from them. It is giving me so much more ideas, so much more thoughts, which probably I wouldn't have been able to take things forward. I would be more conservative, let us do it in a certain way. But the today's children have completely transformed me. Okay, I think that's the impact I see from the starting from millennials to the Gen Z.
I think adding on to this, its exposure levels are unbelievable.
Enormous.
And this is the telecom penetration has changed it. So they don't restrict themselves what's happening in my neighborhood or my city or my family. It's like what somebody is doing even in Germany or France, and they have an instance to give it to you. So you don't have too much, so that exposure level has given them think beyond, think through and think beyond, which we were kind of, while I got my first mobile phone when I was 22, followed by this smartphones, I think, 11 years back. However, they have seen it from their growing up age. So information is very easily accessible. They know what to search. So every answer Google gives, not parents.
So I think that's one thing which came up earlier also, that the equity has to be now brought in terms of demography, rather than in terms of gender or such things. Though we are happy as women leaders to be the flag bearers of carrying the gender equity, so that kind of influence also happens on the other segments that get created.
Yes.
Whether it is people with special needs, whether it is people from far-flung places where information access is not as easy as the urban areas. So I think as women we could be flag bearers to the changes that
Absolutely.
are happening, and that could be used as an example to bring in more inclusivity, more equity to a lot of people. So, any other thoughts on how, in terms of technology, you're looking at making the next change? I know digital payments have been really the success, especially on the back of COVID. But what next? Are there certain ideas that as companies that you all are leading, what in terms of technology do you think as the next step?
One thing which got missed out, I think, in some of our discussion is the importance of the financial literacy. I think that's the cornerstone for, it's not anything to do with women financial services, but I think for everybody, it's about how do you manage your finances to be financially free through your life. I think that's something using technology to disrupt that, because financial literacy is almost like a grant, right? You have to spend money to teach so many people so many hours to understand how to manage your money. So how do we use technology to disrupt that aspect of teaching people how to use their money? I think would be a great one step of innovation that needs to be done, because we keep at home discussing, saying, how do you teach teenagers to manage your money? How do you teach women to manage your money? How do you teach my mom who's retired or on the verge of retirement to manage the money? So I think there are various aspects of managing money, but it seems like a very onerous task of having to dole out X rupees per hour of teaching people. To disrupt it financially would be one of the things which I think will interest and will be a lot of work that needs to be done. The second is the role of influencers. I think the set of influencers, like what Asha was talking about, somebody going door to door, but the right set of people going to door, I think will get in the right set of people get interested, especially given the different demographic construct of our country. I think these are the two big aspects which technology can completely disrupt to ensure that the foundation of financial wellness is there in this country.
I 100% second that. I wonder why we don't have financial literacy as one of the skill and important things to understand at grade 10 or start even at grade 8. This is one skill set everyone needs. You are training them to earn money, but you're not training them how to make more money for you. So it has to start at the education, in the system. It has to be an important course. Second is, yes, as women, as leaders, we can participate more. As fintechs, we can invest in content creation to actually make this education easy and more user friendly, more easily absorbable, instead of heavy text and those kind of books we read on Warren Buffett and all that. And there are certain fintechs which are heavily investing in that space as well. So I think fintech can go a long way in education. Especially women have a very different way of investing. So I was reading a couple of reports that came from US, essentially on women needs more hand-holding and more aware decision-making when they are investing. It's not like men, somebody gave a stock tip and they'll invest. Women are far more aware. So for that, you need a little bit more hand-holding and a little bit more education courses focused how women, wants to treat the money. So I think I would 100% say this is going to be a big game changer in going forward for next 10 years.
Asha, any views on that?
Yeah, I actually third that. Okay, so I think education or educating specifically on what is needed to the right masses and building that social network. See, it's very simple. If my friend tells me this is the way to do, I trust her more than anything else, isn't it?
Yes.
So how do you build that social network? In fact, this has happened during COVID days. Medically, a lot of things has happened, right? How did it happen? It was through a network of players. Similarly, in fintech, if we want to have more people investing smartly, intelligently, and try to make the money work for them, or making things better for them, we need to build that network. And how does that network happen? I would say there's so much of social network today. I wouldn't say that. It's a one-to-one network, that personal connect. And how do you bring the people together? How do you ensure that this is what you will get. See, we all understand better when we know what's in it for us, isn't it? So what will you get by doing this? And showing examples, that kind of an education helps a lot. That kind of a complete community building helps a lot.
So essentially, trust through influencers, right?
I would say trusted advisors. This is my favorite statement. So find the trusted advisors amongst you who can help in this journey. I mean, today we see how has this Lichet Puppet grown, right? These are some of the samples that I really want to take up. This started when 25 years ago, when there was nothing like what we are talking today, right? Need brings in the first perspective towards what you want to do.
Sure.
Need associated with what's in it for me allows you to move forward. I guess we need to put this together, and being in FinTech is the right time, right place. This is the perfect journey to take people. Cash is what make people talk. Ensure this goes forward, ensure that is done digitally, ensure that is done as an education system, build the community around it. I think we can go far. It's a positive trend.
Yes, and I think the ecosystem of technology, the growth which has happened in the last few years in terms of telecom penetration, 3G, 5G, I mean, we're moving to 5G now. Also, a lot of solutions in terms of speech to text to speech, I mean, is what has broken the barrier of digital literacy, right? So kudos to all of you in technology who've really raised the bar for financial services, brought it to a level where it is more of an equity and inclusive atmosphere for all kinds of groups, whether starting with women, but of course, for anyone who is underprivileged or has not been able to reach out or has the access to these services. So thank you very much for your time and the wonderful discussion that we had.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Before we close, we have a small token of appreciation from our side. Can I request Ruchika to give out her mementos, please? The first one, of course, goes to our moderator for keeping to the time. It's such a relief. Thank you so much, ma'am. Here
Thank
is
you.
a gift for you, ma'am. She's Director KPMG. Next we have Radhika Binani, Chief Product Officer, Paisabazaar. Asha Seshadri, Senior Vice President, Software Solutions, Evolute FinTech Innovations. And of course, last but not the least, Aayara Shaheer, Head of Wealth and Insurance Business, MobiKwik. Can we have a group photo, please, of the ladies?